I built an electric perimeter fence in only 2 days with zero experience and without spending an arm and a leg. Now here's the thing, a couple of weeks ago we had one of our calves get out of the temporary fencing. We rotationally graze our cows and move them every day. Calf got out and went to the neighbor's property. And that was a reminder for me that we really have to have proper perimeter fencing in place. And we do actually. On 3 of our sites, we have about 45 acres. We have a proper perimeter fence with woven wire and barbed wire on top. But the north side was open. And I had put off that project for a long time because I figured building a fence is either very time consuming or very expensive or both. And so I dreaded doing it. But then after that calf had escaped and was at the neighbor's property, I'm like, okay, I gotta see what I can do to build this with little money and ideally being able to do it myself. And so in this video, I'm going to show you what I did and how I did it and what I would maybe do differently going forward. Hey, before we get into the video, I'd like to hear from you. Leave me a comment, go down to the comment box and let me know how you usually approach building energized perimeter fences. What type of fence do you use? What type of equipment do you use? Do you do it by hand? Do you contract it out? Let me know. I'd love to hear from you. And now back to the video. Now, to be perfectly honest, I already said it, I had zero fence building experience, none whatsoever. So if my H braces look a little rough around the edges, bear with me. It's because I have never done it before, but I think they came out quite well. They work, they are functional. And so again, in this video, I'm going to cover what I did, what worked, and what I would maybe do differently. We raise not only cattle, we have pigs, we have poultry, we have rabbits, we have honeybees, and most of our animals, especially the ones out on pasture, they move either every day or every couple of days, depending on the species. Cows move every day, pigs every 10 days, chickens every couple of days. And so we need a whole lot of functional fencing. Most of it is temporary, and that's fine for interior fencing, but for the outside, for the perimeter, we needed something a little bit more robust that an animal cannot just bust through and then trample the neighbor's veggie garden or be out on the road, even worse. And so here is how I approached it and what my ultimate goal was. The north side of our property that butts up to the neighbor is all open. The other 3 sides of the property are either also butting up to another neighbor or to roads. And those fortunately already had proper perimeter fencing in place, so there was nothing that I had to do. But my ultimate goal really was to not only fence in the north side with hot wire, so I can then connect my interior temporary fencing to that hot wire, but also eventually to run 1 strand of hot wire on top of the existing perimeter fence all around the property. So that's the ultimate goal. And with that in mind, I figured, okay, where I'm going to place the energizer. And we have a shed that has electricity on the east side of our property that is just a few feet away from the perimeter fence. And so I decided to install the energizer inside of that shed, have the grounding rods just outside of the shed spread out, across the entire length of the 24-foot shed, and then hook it up to a hot wire that runs down the east side of the fence to the north side, and that will then energize the 2 strands of hot wire that I wanted to run across the north side. So one at a regular height for cattle and then one a little bit lower so we can keep calves contained as well. It might not work for sheep, we might need a 3rd strand, but at least for now those 2 strands of hot wire should keep our adult cows and the cattle inside of the perimeter. So that's kind of how we envisioned everything. And before we started doing anything, what I did was I just cleared the fence line because there was a lot of brambles growing. That property had not been maintained in a very, very long time. And so there was a whole lot of stuff growing along the fence line that I had to clear out. Actually, a neighbor's son helped me with that. He's a high schooler and he wanted to earn some extra money over summer. So he helped me clear the fence. And then we bush hogged the strip on the north side. It's about 1,500 feet that we just bush hog to keep it in low and be ready to install the hot wire without it touching the pasture or the vegetation and shortening out potentially. So that was to get everything going. And then I installed the energizer in the shed already, drove in the ground rods, not all the way yet. I wanted to be sure the positioning and everything is good, but I set up all of that. I ran the wire from inside of the shed to the outside using a lead-out wire, insulated lead-out wire that can be above ground, and also connected all of the grounding posts, 3 of them in total, spaced out approximately, I think 8 feet or so with a 24-foot shed, I believe. And all of that was in place. And then the next step, that was really the part that I was dreading a little bit, is to build the H-braces on both sides of the northern property line, on the northeast and in the northwest. And I actually purchased an electric auger, so I didn't have to dig the holes myself. I used it and it was really a breeze. I mean, digging the hole with the auger took me maybe, I don't know, less than 5 minutes, then scoop it out a little bit to get a little deeper maybe and a little bit wider, and that was it. I set the posts, regular wooden fence posts, put in some quick-crete concrete, with some water, let it set, and then I installed the horizontal brace with 2 large pins that I drilled in, and that was fairly straightforward. It was actually all easier than I thought it would be. I don't know why I dreaded it for so long, but that took me maybe, 2 hours or so. I did everything over the course of several days. I didn't do everything, like back to back, and it was done in 2 days. No, I spread it out a little bit, but overall, it took me about 2 days, I want to say, to get everything set up. And in total, we have probably around 2,000 feet worth of fence line. So 1,500 across the northern property line, and then the feed line from the shed to the north end. That's maybe around 500 feet or so. So once the H-braces were in place, the next step was to set the line posts. And so usually, if you look around, what everyone does is they either use T-posts and then, some wood posts in between. And I decided to go with insulated fence posts from Gallagher. Now, the advantage of those is they're maybe a little bit more expensive than regular T-posts for sure, but they are insulated, so they are a type of plastic. So it doesn't matter if the wire touches the post, which would be a problem with T-posts, obviously. And also you can space them out wider. So the spacing for those insulated line posts is somewhere between 23 and 39 feet, depending on, the ground and how much elevation, and height difference you have, etc. But we spaced them out approximately 35 feet across the board, even if we are on a little bit of an, hilly kind of environment here. And that worked incredibly well. I mean, so far at least, I've not seen any problems whatsoever. They are solid. The tension is proper on the wire, etc. And so I had to drive them in by hand. And that was on one of the hottest days we had here in Georgia. And we worked for a couple of hours. I think we used 36 of those posts in total. And that was a workout. I can tell you that. Driving them in by hand, I had blisters because in the beginning I didn't wear gloves. And later, when I felt my skin ripping, I finally put on gloves and that helped, but it was already a little late. My elbow hurt. I mean, it was a chore, but we got it done. And looking back, I'm like, if I had to drive in T-posts that require an 8 to 10 foot spacing, that would be significantly more posts and more pain at the end of the day than those insulated posts from Gallagher. So I really like those posts. It's easy then to attach the clips. You don't need a screw or anything. They just work incredibly well. They are heavy duty, they are sturdy, and I think they are the best way of installing a semi-permanent fence, because you can take them out if you want to, obviously. I mean, you can take out any post, but those ones come out relatively easy, relatively speaking, but they are still solid in the ground. So I really like those. And then the next step was to run the wire. And we got a payout spinner, which is, like a contraption that you can put the whole spool of wire on and then just spin it out. And that's especially, with high-tensile wire, if you have to do that by hand, first of all, the thing is heavy. I had no idea how heavy a roll of that wire is, and walking that out, I don't think you want to do. And so with that payout spinner, that makes it incredibly easy. Now, we made a mistake, I have to admit, again, because I have no idea and I've never used this type of equipment before. We put the payout spinner with the fence roll on the back of a UTV, and then I drove it out. And because of, keeping a constant speed over uneven terrain with the UTV is a little bit challenging, so the wire got all tangled up, and then we couldn't, unwind it anymore. And we basically lost the whole spool of wire, I have to admit. That was a little bit painful to see or to realize. So we then switched to the second roll that I had, and I simply walked it out by hand. So we had the payout spinner on one side of the property or on the fence line, and I just walked it over the 1,500 feet, pulling it by hand. Towards the end, it was a little bit of a workout too, because pulling, a wire for that long, it gets heavier and heavier and heavier, but it was totally doable, and we did it with zero tangling up, and everything worked fine. So we attached on the wire on one hand, one side of the T-posts. I didn't have any of those insulators that you can run the wire through so that the wire doesn't touch the wood. I didn't even think about that wood, especially when it rains, when it's wet, is a conductor, and so you're gonna ground out the fence, worst case scenario. So we used a piece of garden hose that we just chopped off, ran the wire through it, attached it properly. tied it up, and then we stretched it by hand. I wasn't sure that was possible, stretching that wire 1500 feet across uneven terrain, but we did it. We just used a couple of those, fence pliers to keep it tight, and then we used an end line and inline strainer to tighten it. That worked incredibly well. My neighbor's son said, there might be a chance that on the other side of the property line, that fence might be lying on the ground, or that wire might be lying on the ground because the tension isn't high enough. But I actually drove to the other side and was all the way in the air, exactly where it should be. So they worked perfectly well just stretching it by hand. Obviously, if you cannot stretch it using a tractor or using a tree or whatever, that's even better, easier. But we did it just doing it by hand, and it worked perfectly fine. Once the wire was stretched, we began attaching it to the line posts, and we used simply, those clips that come with those. We got the clips that match those Gallagher insulated line posts. They are fairly easy to attach. There are different spacers or spaces on that line post to attach it, so you can do it as high or as low as you want to. We did this for both of the wires, one a little bit higher, one a little bit lower. After the fact, actually, I went back and moved the lower one a little bit up because it was in some places too close to the ground, and as vegetation starts growing, it would touch fairly quickly, and I don't want to have to maintain the fence that often and mow underneath it, etc. But that was, took us a couple of minutes to basically walk the entire fence line and attach those clips. We tightened them a little bit more then with those inline strainers. Once that was done, that basically covered then the entire north side. Then I went back to my east side and starting running a hot wire on top of our existing east side fence, which is a combination of T-posts and wooden posts, and used regular black insulators on the very top, ran it across, stretched the wire, same that I did with the fence pliers, and then used an inline strainer to really make it tight and to make sure that wire does not get too close to our barbed wire. We have 2 strands of barbed wire on top, and I actually moved the top barbed wire a little bit down. That took me a little bit of work because I had to, open the clips, move it down and tighten them up again so it wouldn't move, and then connect everything together. On the side of the shed where the entire hot wire starts, I installed also a lightning diverter. So in case there's a lightning strike, I don't want to have my energizer or anything else destroyed. So I installed that. I connected it to the grounding rods. I connected it to the energizer, obviously. I had to adjust it a little bit because there was in the instructions, it said if you see an arc inside of the lightning diverter, just adjust it a little bit until the spark stops. That's what I did using a screwdriver. Then I also installed a cutout switch, which basically means I can de-energize the entire east line, which would then obviously also de-energize the northern line. And I installed a second cutout switch on the northeastern side. So if I only want to disable basically or de-energize the northern line, I could do that as well while keeping the east line still active. Again, the ultimate goal is to really have that wire run across the entire property. So I'm gonna at some point would probably have another cutout on the right side on the eastern line to, from the energizer going right. Also I can cut that part out and just leave the left side on, etc. But that's a future problem right now. For now, we just have those 2 cutouts and the lightning diverter, and everything works. And then last but not least, that was the most exciting part, to see if the whole thing actually works. If we have a good spark, and we ended up with about 10 kilovolts on the east line, and once I connected the 2 strands of hot wire on the north sides, we run about 7.5 kilovolts. So that should be a good enough spark to contain animals, especially the ones that are hot wire trained already. The good news really with all of that is, and that's why I like the equipment I picked so much, and I leaned heavily on Gallagher. I mean, you can see, based on the video footage that most of or everything I've used really is Gallagher. That stuff is really heavy duty. It's easy to use. Even with the Siri experience that I had, everything just worked really, really nicely, and it didn't break the bank. I mean, everything, all of the equipment I used, and by the way, I didn't really use all of it. I wasted really 1 roll of the hot wire, and I still have a bunch of clips, of posts, of all of the little things. There is still a bunch left that I can use for future projects, but all of it together, the entire gear, the retail price of the entire gear is about $2,000. Now that's not pocket change, but considering I built a 2,000-foot fence, that's about $1 a foot. That's very reasonable, especially also considering that I have still a bunch of stuff left. And if I hadn't wasted the second roll of high-tensile wire, I would still have all of that left, so I could potentially run another line across the rest of the property. I'm not sure if it's a 4,000 foot roll. So there is a good chance I could have used that to complete the entire perimeter hot wire with that roll that I unfortunately wasted and that ended up in the trash. But the bottom line here really is building a fence is not as complicated and as expensive as it seems, depending on what you want to do. Obviously, this is not a woven wire, so there is still, smaller animals might still be able to get through. But for what we need to contain our cows predominantly, using 2 strands of high tensile wire that has a good spark, that's all we really needed. And, again, we spent in actual gear used less than $2,000, and it took us about 2 days. I had some help from the neighbor's son, so it was a 1.5 person job. Totally doable. Now that I know what I'm doing, or know a little bit more about building fences, I could have probably do this myself the next time without any help. Obviously, whenever you have help, everything goes quicker. But that's it. I want to shout out to Gallagher for providing the equipment. I really like all of that gear. I have a link down below you can check out with a discount code, that gives you a discount and me a little bit of a kickback so we can make more videos like this. So thanks again, Gallagher, for providing some of that equipment and some of guidance as well on how to do it and what gear to use, etc. That was super, super helpful. I'm incredibly pleased with the results, and I can rest assured that our cows are going to stay on our side of the property. They might still escape from the interior temporary fencing, but that's okay. Well, and that was it. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, share with someone who might be willing or want to build a fence but doesn't feel confident that it's doable with a small budget or, DIY and without a whole lot of experience. It is, as you can see, might not be perfect, but it's good enough for government work, as I like to say. And with that, we're going to wrap it up. I hope to see you in the next video.